While Sonic is known for his speed and Knuckles is known for his strength, Tails is known for his intelligence.
Yo, how's my genius friend?
And for flying around like a helicopter.
Helicopter, helicopter!
There are a lot of cool Sonic toys around right now, but there are some really obvious ones that aren't really available anywhere, such as a flying helicopter Tails. I have seen Nintendo playing around with that idea a little bit, because there's a flying helicopter Kirby, which is pretty cool since Kirby does fly around. However, it doesn't fit as well, because Kirby flies around kinda like a balloon, but Tails flies around exactly like a helicopter.
Did your butt just turn into a helicopter?
A buttcopter!
Hey folks from Sega, I'm giving y'all a bunch of really cool Sonic toys ideas. Feel free to make some commercially available versions of those. Maybe even sponsor me. In the past, I have made Knuckles gloves, not as a toy, as an actual weapon that can do a lot of destruction. And one of the comments asked me to make Tails' tails. I wasn't very comfortable with that, especially regarding budget and not harming myself and so on. So I thought one way of doing this was actually building Tails helicopter toy. So for now, this is what we got. So anyway, the first step will be getting a toy helicopter that we can modify to turn into Tails. So this is the toy that we're going to be using today. I did look for the cheapest option out there. It was supposed to be yellow and it's clearly not. I'm just hoping it actually flies. This went about as well as I expected. Once we have our helicopter in hand, we can start disassembling it to get to the core parts that we need, like the motor, the battery, the controller, and so on. Shouldn't be too much of a hassle, to be honest. I've disassembled a bunch of toys so far. And that way we know how much flexibility we have in terms of placing the parts, and we can actually measure so that we know how big or small our Tails shell will be. As usual, my first idea is to 3D print him, but to do that we need a 3D model first. And to be honest, I couldn't find any model online that would fit my requirements, mostly because we are looking for a tail without his tails. So instead of getting a model online and modifying it, this time I did a rough sculpt on Nomad Sculpt from scratch. Please don't judge my sculpting abilities here. I know it's pretty rough, but I barely practice, so I think it's good enough for now. And then I made that sculpt hollow, split it in two parts so that we can print it, and send it straight to my Creality K1 Max. Now regarding the size, since we want the helicopter blades to be tails, we want the motor assembly to fit in his rear, and that made the model quite large. And unfortunately, even though I made the model hollow and made the infill really low, with this setup, Tails couldn't fly at all. The model was way too heavy. If we compare the 3D printed shell with the original helicopter shell, you'll see that it's several times heavier. So it makes sense, but the weight is also related to the size of the model, right? We have a lot of empty space in Tails' head, so if we move the helicopter assembly to the head, we can scale the model down, and that way it will be lighter as well. So I did that. I was a bit optimistic because we are much closer to the original weight, and once I turned the helicopter assembly on, I could feel that Tails was almost weightless, almost like a balloon. So much so that I attempted kind of throwing him upwards, and he did fall slowly, I would say, but it still felt quite underwhelming, to be honest. After that test, I just came to the conclusion that this wasn't going to be possible with 3D printing, unless I did a Voronoi kind of thing where you have a bunch of holes in the model. So I started thinking about other options. And back in the day, when we didn't have 3D printers, a hobby that I did partake in was papercraft. And that's when you print a pattern and then you cut it out and assemble your 3D shape. So obviously it would be super light and probably would be able to fly. So I spent a little bit of time exporting the sculpt into Blender and then reducing the polygons. I opened up a YouTube tutorial on how to do UV painting in Blender, and it turned out quite nice, to be honest, for a low poly Tails model. And after that, I spent some more time learning how to export a 3D model into a paper template. It was pretty fun, I have to say. However, this was my first 3D model to paper model attempt, and I didn't really know how to mark the seams correctly and so on. And I didn't even have like a proper papercraft paper because it should be a bit stiffer than regular paper. So once I started trying to assemble it with regular paper, it became pretty clear that this wasn't going to work. At that point, I was already a bit pissed, to be honest, but I didn't give up. And for the next attempt, I must say I kind of cheated a little bit, because instead of having a 3D shell of Tails housing the components, I decided to go with a couple of pieces of foam board. And I knew that it was pretty light, and I'm pretty sure people make airplane models out of those, so it would for sure fly. I printed out the stickers. I cut them out using my vinyl cutter. After I put the stickers on and I cut the outline, I took the parts back to the scale again, just to make sure that it was lighter or at least equally heavy to the original helicopter shell. And it was much lighter. And after that, I just used a bunch of hot glue to stick the motor assembly to the panels, and it's finally done. The reason why I say it's cheating because it's not a 3D shape anymore. So if you look from either side, it looks pretty good. But if you look at it from the top or from the bottom, it's going to look pretty bad. So the thing is, it's super duper light. So it doesn't just fly. It goes out of reach really quickly, and also out of reach of the controller. So if I ever fly this thing outdoors, I'm 100% sure I will lose it. And it was a really fun project to work on. Just the concept itself, it's incredible in my opinion. But I guess that's it for today. See you guys next time.